Welcome to the School of Love, the place where miracles are normal. Hello, and welcome to the School of Love, the place where we learn practical tools based on scientific research and our own experience towards improving ourselves, living life to its fullest, and contributing to the best of our abilities to the world around us. I am Dr. Grajdian, and I'm a professor of media studies and anthropology at Hiroshima University. In my free time, I am doing my best to guide you in building up a life of contentment, joy, and fulfillment while applying lessons learned in school to overcome the difficulties, challenges, and insecurities of the real world. In today's video, I talk about self-sabotage when other people are doing it and you are witnessing it. I include this topic in the series Things I Wish I Knew When I Was Younger, which contains small videos on precisely that. Very practical tips, tools, and tactics which would have helped me tremendously when I was younger and much less experienced than today. These are ideas which I wish someone more mature than myself would have told me. Not even explained to me, just told me that they exist so that I become aware of different way of looking at the world. We all know those persons who eternally seem to get in their own way and hurt themselves in a manner which their worst enemies would fail to. Actually, they self-sabotage. But how do you deal with them when none of Eckhart Tolle's solutions, change, accept, or live, are possible? In this video, I start with a definition of self-sabotage when other people are doing it and you are witnessing it, and some of its causes. And then I deliver a 5-steps protocol which helps you learn to deal with self-sabotaging when other people are doing it, and hopefully in time to find some sort of sustainable solution, at least partially, so that by the end of this video you will have a complete protocol for dealing with self-sabotage when other people are self-sabotaging themselves. Well, if you choose to do so. It has helped me a lot, although it took years to improve, and I still catch myself getting dragged in other people's drama resulting from self-sabotage repetition paralysis. So this is a phenomenon when we do the same thing again and again to the worst outcomes towards ourselves. And these people repeat the same type of self-hurting things and actions eternally. But at least now I recognize it and I am able to deal with it. And now, first things first, that is 2 important disclaimers. The first disclaimer serves to strongly emphasize the fact that this YouTube channel, The School of Love, is not part of my educational and research activities at Hiroshima University. It is nonetheless part of my privilege, joy, and sense of duty to propagate and implement knowledge, information, as well as motivation and inspiration outside the limited framework of academic endeavors. Together, we can build up a better tomorrow for as many of us as possible. The second disclaimer relates to the fact that I'm a trained musician and musicologist, not a psychologist, therapist, or counselor. The ideas I'm sharing in my videos reflect my deep-going preoccupation with life, my own life and other people's lives, and expresses the results of my experiences, research, and for better or for worse, my failures, as well as my recovery from those failures, recovery which is continuously ongoing. The idea expressed in the videos on this channel named The School of Love cannot and may not and must not replace the consultation with specialists in whichever areas of your life you might have questions or you might struggle with. If you are new to this channel, at this moment I would like to ask you to please consider subscribing, sharing, liking, commenting. Thank you very much. This helps us not only with that mysterious algorithm which seems to dominate the YouTube galaxy, but also with contributing to the expansion of the community of humans doing their best to impact positively the world and those around them by discovering their authentic selves and living life wholeheartedly. Thanks again. And now back to today's topic, which is how to deal with self-sabotage when other people are doing it and you are witnessing it. So I will start by defining self-sabotage and then explain some of the signs of self-sabotage when other people are doing it and you are witnessing it and you don't know how to relate to it. Then some causes, and then I will talk about 5 simple steps in dealing with self-sabotage in others when you do not have the opportunity to either accept it. You cannot really accept when you see someone self-destroyed, him or herself. You cannot accept it. You cannot leave that relationship when it's someone you actually care about, like let's say your grown-up child or a partner you actually love, and you cannot so you cannot accept the situation, you cannot leave the situation, and you cannot change the person. No, like trying to change the others is one of the really the few um, endeavors which are absolutely sure to fail. So what is self-sabotage? Self-sabotage is when someone acts against their best interest, against their own interest. And you can see this, for instance, people who procrastinate and they have a deadline at work, instead of they postpone it, they procrastinate, and then they don't meet the deadline. Or when they have a group project, they are not doing their part. You can see self-sabotage in people who have actually a good partner, and then they start cheating, for instance, or they start stealing from home, or doing all sorts of actions which do not make sense. It's one thing to, well, essentially we can rationalize any sort of bad toxic behavior nowadays. But there are situations in which these toxic behaviors do not make any sense because the person doing them is doing it against their own interest or best interest. This is self-sabotage. And so these are also the signs you see when someone does some things which are simply destructive towards themselves. And some reasons for self-sabotage is, for instance, childhood trauma, so neglectful or abusive parents, or overtly abusive parents, or caregivers who have never actually, who have built up in those children who later on become self-sabotaging grown-ups, very negative self-beliefs and self-assessments, like you're lazy, or you're stupid, or you're a nuisance to the world, or you're a failure. These kind of messages, the child cannot differentiate between what is true and what is not true. It cannot filter them. The child takes them as they come, and they lead always to they internalize those messages, and later on they act upon those internalized messages, which comes up from the outside. They show up as these toxic behaviors are actually the result, the externalization of these internalized messages from childhood. So as an outsider who sees someone self-destructing himself or herself, your problem is how to deal with it. You cannot change the person, as I said. Giving them some insights into their own condition will only make you look like crazy to them, and they will become, maybe, who knows, aggressive and contemptuous. Yeah, the relationship will break down, and if you cannot leave that relationship, because this is the reason why you have to learn to cope with it, and that person becomes even more complicated to deal with, this doesn't lead anywhere. So you cannot really tell them about it, but you can learn how to deal with it. I've been there, so I've been both the self-destructive person and the person having to deal with the self-destructive person, and I can tell you, in the end, you have to leave the interaction. Yeah, in the end, you have to allow them to be the way they are, if they do not develop the self-awareness that they are self-sabotaging. But up to that moment where you can leave, you have to learn to deal with it without self-destructing yourself in the process. The first step, as always, is self-awareness, self-awareness, knowing that you're dealing with a self-sabotaging person, knowing that you cannot change it, and how to gain self-awareness. Well, exactly as I have explained a couple of minutes ago, by asking yourself, why is this person doing this kind of stuff against their best interest, against their own interest. This is self-sabotage. The moment you ask yourself, why is this person doing this is self-sabotage. Why is this person lying? while this person not keeping promises, while this person so volatile where in specific areas of their life when in other areas are very proficient. These are clear signs of self-sabotage. So, and developing the awareness of self-awareness that you are dealing with a self-sabotaging person is the first step. The second step is which goes together with the third step, is to identify the trigger. Why are you in such an interaction, in such a relationship with this person, regardless whether it is a professional relationship or a romantic relationship or even social relationship, like let's say non-profit relationships, and this volunteer relationships or friendship relationship? Why are you so stuck with this person? Why can't you just, let's put it very bluntly, leave? And usually you're stuck with that person because there is a reward. Their self-sabotaging behavior, which probably is not the only toxic behavior they display, actually comes to you with a sort of reward, with a sort of validation on your side. Maybe you feel like the savior. Maybe you feel like the white knight or the white princess, saving them from themselves. Maybe you were yourself in a complicated family of origin where you had to play the ideal child, the parent child, the one who could do everything and save everyone. So there is always a trigger, which also comes from within you, and a reward. And I have already mentioned some rewards. Is it makes you feel good. It is toxic and it hurts you, but at the same time, that hurt delivers to you some reward. And how can you deal with that? You cannot leave the interaction, obviously. Trying to forcefully leave such interactions never works out. It never works out. It creates a lot of pain, and in the end, they come back together again. Again, been there, done that. I know. Trying to forcefully end a toxic interaction actually only leads to more toxicity and eventually walking back into the same pattern. Maybe not with the same person, but the next person for sure. So the solution is actually to learn to deal with it in a healthy manner. So learn to deal with the triggers, which what keeps you stuck there in a healthy manner. So every time, for instance, when you observe the person self-sabotaging, probably you have some sort of reaction of helping them out. And well, it might be painful and might look selfish, but instead of helping them out, what about not helping them out? What about helping them, if you necessarily want to help them, helping them to help themselves out? What about taking some distance and allow them to fail so miserably that they will have to ask themselves questions? So decide to react differently and make a very concrete plan. What do I do when I find myself again reacting to the self-sabotaging behaviors? This is the first step. And the second step is learn to replace that reward, that toxic reward you would getting from reacting and getting involved with their self-sabotaging behaviors. Find some sort to replace that lack of reward with something else. For instance, as I said, you can take some distance and allow them to fail so miserably that they'll have to do something about it. They'll have to understand, I'm destroying my life. You will feel very bad. Yeah, I can tell you will feel very bad. You will feel very selfish. You will feel like the worst person in this part of the galaxy. But at the same time, so you'll have to just go and take care of a dog. Go to a dog shelter and take care of the dogs because you'll feel the need to do something for others. Probably you have some people-pleasing issues as well. And if you feel this need to do something, don't do for that person, because it only enables them to continue to be self-sabotaging. Do something good for something else, for some dogs, for some cats, for some orphan children, for some old people, for some homeless people. Do something good for someone else. Get your dopamine hit, if you want, from somewhere else. In time, they will have to deal with their own self-sabotaging behavior, and you will have to get to solve your triggers to solve how you deal with your triggers in a different manner and take your dopamine hits from somewhere else, what happens is that actually you're moving away from this very toxic dynamic in which you are part of the self-sabotaging behaviors. Yeah, and by moving away from it, you also and finding different ways to react to triggers and different ways to collect these dopamine hits, you're actually dismantling the dynamics. You're not part of the dynamics anymore, but not by forcefully leaving it, but by finding healthier ways of dealing with the individual elements of that toxic dynamic of the self-sabotaging behavior of the other person. And the last step in this process is to develop gratitude, to become grateful for your encounters with that self-sabotaging person, for the experience in self, because it allowed you yourself some insights into your own issues, into your problems, into what you are now. So allow for gratitude to grow, and probably you also have some healing issues, and this will allow you to move forward, and to move forward not in a forceful manner, which never works, but in a kind manner, in a warm-hearted manner, in a compassionate manner, and to develop compassion towards yourself in the first place. So develop gratitude, and feel grateful for every step on the way in your life. So that would be for today. As always, thank you for listening to me. Thank you for being here, for joining me today, and I'm looking forward to welcoming you here very soon again. Love and peace to you all.